to today's deep dive into the source material. I'm so glad you are joining us today because we're tackling something that is, well, it's probably affecting your daily work life right now.
Yeah, whether you realize it or not, honestly.
Exactly. Whether you are prepping for a major strategy meeting or trying to make sense of the latest industry shifts, or maybe you're just insanely curious about where technology is actually heading behind the scenes, you are in the right place.
Absolutely.
Today, our mission is to explore this massive, incredibly common gap in the modern business world. We're talking about the chasm between playing around with artificial intelligence in a sandbox and actually extracting real, measurable business value from it.
It's a huge gap.
It really is.
Yeah.
And we are basing our entire conversation today on a really thought-provoking article by Jaideep Parashar. He's the founder and director of Rethink AI Innovation and Research.
Right, and his piece is titled From Experimentation to Execution, How Leaders Must Rethink AI. It's a genuinely fascinating piece of writing because it addresses this very specific, quiet frustration that is just bubbling up everywhere in the corporate world right now.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, we've all seen the hype over the last couple of years. We know what the technology is theoretically capable of. But Parashar is pointing a spotlight directly at the friction point, the place where that massive hype meets the harsh reality of quarterly earnings and operational efficiency.
Okay, let's unpack this. I want you to imagine a scene. And honestly, if you work in an office, there is a very high chance you have been in this exact room recently.
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere you look, across industries right now, AI experimentation is happening. Pilots are running in the marketing department. The sales team has a shiny new forecasting tool.
Yep.
Proofs of concept are getting fully funded by these really excited executives. And the dashboards, the demos they put up on the big screen, they look absolutely incredible.
Oh, like magic.
They really do. It feels like the future has officially arrived. But then, and this is the kicker, a leader steps back, looks at the team, and asks a very simple, grounded question.
What measurable business value are we actually getting from all of this?
Yes, exactly that question. And suddenly the room just goes completely quiet.
Crickets.
Right. People start shuffling their papers, looking down, because those flashy dashboards, they don't have an answer for that.
They really don't. And what's fascinating here is that the immediate instinct in that silent room is almost always to blame the technology.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, people assume the AI just isn't smart enough yet, or they say the company's internal data isn't clean enough to get good results.
Or the algorithms just need another 6 months of training.
Exactly. Always another 6 months. But Parashar completely flips that assumption on its head. He argues that this is absolutely not a technology problem.
Yeah.
It's fundamentally a leadership execution problem. The reality is that the technology itself has moved way beyond the experimentation phase. It's ready.
It's the humans that aren't ready.
Precisely. The mental models of the leaders deploying it have not caught up at all.
That feels like a pretty bold claim, though. I mean, I hear what you're saying about the technology being ready, but isn't the whole point of a pilot program to keep things safe?
Well, yes and no.
Like, if I'm a VP, a pilot feels like a secure sandbox. If we move too fast into full execution without thoroughly experimenting, aren't we just asking for a massive, wildly expensive failure? Why is getting stuck in what Parashar calls pilot mode such a bad thing?
It's a really fair question. And honestly, it's exactly why so many smart leaders get trapped there in the first place. The danger isn't that pilots exist.
Okay.
The danger is what pilots are actually designed to do. Pilots optimize for learning, not for performance.
So that makes sense.
Think about what an experiment actually is. It's designed to test feasibility. It asks, can this specific tool do this specific isolated task?
Right. Can it write this email or sort this spreadsheet?
Exactly. But experiments are absolutely not designed to reshape your entire operating model. They aren't built to change decision authority within a company. And they certainly aren't built to deliver sustained long-term value across multiple departments.
It's like,
When you stay in the sandbox, you are only ever learning how to build sandcastles. You aren't building an actual skyscraper.
that is such a good way to put it. You end up with these really successful little pilots that never actually scale up.
Right.
You have disconnected use cases scattered everywhere across the company. And you end up talking about ROI constantly in meetings, but you never actually see it hit the balance sheet.
Lever.
Activity goes way up, everyone's busy, but the actual business impact stays totally flat. Parashar calls this the illusion of false progress, which is just such a great phrase.
It really hits the nail on the head.
You feel like you're innovating because your calendar is totally full of
Yeah.
tech demos, but you aren't actually moving the business forward 1 inch.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this gap between feeling busy and actually executing is exactly where competitive advantage is being lost in the market right now. And Parashar points out several major roadblocks that prevent companies from crossing that gap. The biggest one, moving past the fact that pilots only optimize learning, is the sheer necessity of organizational alignment.
Okay, break that down for me.
Execution demands real structural change. You can't just buy a software license and expect a revolution.
Right.
Execution requires process redesign, it requires cultural adaptation within your workforce, and it requires undeniable, highly visible leadership sponsorship.
I like to think of it kind of like buying a Formula One engine and dropping it into a standard golf cart.
Oh, that's perfect.
Right. You can't just plug this incredibly powerful technology into a slow, outdated vehicle without aligning the rest of the parts to handle it. The tires are going to fly off, the steering won't work, the chassis is just going to snap.
Exactly. The golf cart wasn't built for that kind of torque.
But wait, if execution requires such deep organizational change, doesn't that naturally mean the leaders at the very top need to hand this off to the specialists? Like the CEO shouldn't be the one figuring out the data architecture, right?
Well, no, the CEO shouldn't be writing code. But Parashar really highlights the danger of delegating this strategic intent.
Ah, okay.
It's incredibly common for leaders to just hand off AI integration to the IT department, or they create some siloed innovation team and they just wash their hands of it.
Like, you guys handle the AI, let me know when it's done.
Right. But think about delegating anything truly foundational to a business. You wouldn't delegate your company's core financial strategy to a junior analyst.
No, definitely not.
When AI execution is completely delegated away from the top leadership, the strategic intent becomes totally diluted.
So the IT team might make a really great tactical decision for a single piece of software, but they aren't looking at the systemic flow of the entire business.
Precisely. The decisions become tactical rather than systemic. IT might find a tool that makes data storage 10% cheaper, but they aren't authorized to redesign how the sales team actually uses that data to close deals.
Oh, right. They don't have the authority for that.
And worse, accountability becomes incredibly fragmented. When things go wrong, the business leaders blame IT for picking a bad tool, and IT blames the business leaders for not using it right.
Oh, the classic corporate blame game.
Exactly. Execution requires leadership ownership. Executives have to be in the weeds of the strategy, even if they aren't in the code.
That fragmentation just sounds like a nightmare. And it brings up something that I think makes a lot of people nervous when we talk about moving out of the sandbox and into the real world.
Yeah.
What happens when everyone is just doing their own thing without oversight? Parashar talks about the governance vacuum, which, I mean, it sounds like corporate jargon, but it has real teeth, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. This is where the transition from a pilot to full execution really hits a wall. Going back to your earlier point about the safety of experiments, experiments tolerate risk.
Right.
If a chatbot in a closed beta test gives a weird, hallucinated answer, it's totally fine. You laugh it off, you tweak the prompt, you learn from it.
Yeah, nobody gets fired over a beta test.
Right. But execution in the real world cannot tolerate that same level of risk.
Right, because if that same chatbot is live on your customer service page and it starts making up fake refund policies, you have a massive financial and PR disaster on your hands.
Exactly. Without governance, you might have a rogue marketing team feeding highly proprietary customer data into a public language model just to write an email campaign a little bit faster.
Just because no one explicitly told them not to?
Yes. Your ethical standards become completely inconsistent across the company. Your risk exposure spikes dramatically. And as a result, stakeholder and customer confidence rapidly declines.
So governance is really the safety net.
It's more than that. Governance isn't just a list of rules to slow people down. It is the infrastructure that allows a company to scale a tool safely. It's the magic ingredient that turns a fun trial into reliable business operations.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Parashar doesn't just list all these terrifying ways a company can fail. He points to the exact mental pivot a company needs to make to actually succeed.
Yes, the mindset shift.
It's a fundamental shift. Leaders have to stop looking at their teams and asking, which AI use case should we test next? Instead, they need to start asking, how should intelligence be embedded into how we operate?
It's such a subtle change in wording, but it changes everything.
That one shift in phrasing changes absolutely everything about how a company approaches the future.
It changes it from an IT procurement project into a core operating capability. And Parashar breaks down what this new execution-oriented leadership actually looks like in practice. It requires a lot of nuance.
Walk me through it.
For one, AI must be tied directly to business outcomes. Execution-focused leaders define success in strictly measurable terms. They align their AI initiatives with the company's broader strategic priorities.
Okay.
And this is the hard part. They have the courage to sunset experiments that do not translate into value.
But it's so hard to kill a project that looks cool. Like if you have a dashboard that is generating really interesting insights, even if it's not directly making the company money, the instinct is to keep it around.
Of course it is. It's human nature to want to keep the shiny new toy.
Right.
But if a pilot isn't hitting the business metrics, you have to kill it.
Wow.
AI has to be held accountable to business results, just like any human employee or traditional process. You cannot keep a pet project alive on the payroll just because it uses the latest trendy language model.
Okay, so you tie it to outcomes and you ruthlessly cut the dead weight. How does a leader actually structure the decision-making process then? Because if the AI is making decisions, who is ultimately responsible?
That is the core of redesigning the decision architecture. This is all about absolute clarity. Leaders need to define exactly which decisions the AI is allowed to make autonomously,
Right.
and exactly where human judgment is absolutely non-negotiably mandatory.
Hmm.
You have to map out how escalations work. If the AI flags a massive supply chain disruption, who gets the alert? How do human overrides actually function?
Oh, that makes total sense. Let's say you have an AI managing your warehouse inventory. If the system suddenly predicts a massive spike in demand and tries to auto-order $10 million worth of raw materials, you probably don't want a piece of software actually signing that purchase order.
No, you definitely do not.
You want it to prepare the paperwork, sure, but a human needs to look at it and hit the approve button.
Precisely. That way, you preserve the incredible speed and analytical power that AI gives you, but you don't sacrifice accountability. You always know who is actually making the final call.
Right.
And that ties directly into the need for cross-functional integration. Execution only really happens when AI connects departments and eliminates the silos that naturally build up in any organization.
Because if a company actually redesigns its decision architecture, how do they prevent different departments from just building their own isolated AI bubbles?
They have to consciously map the data flow between them. As Parashar brilliantly puts it, isolated execution is not execution, it's fragmentation.
Fragmentation.
Think about it. If your marketing AI is incredibly efficient and generates 10,000 new qualified leads overnight, but it doesn't talk to your supply chain AI or your sales team's CRM system, what happens?
It's a disaster.
The sales team gets totally overwhelmed, the inventory can't keep up with the new demand, and the entire system crashes.
You're just creating faster bottlenecks. You've automated the marketing, but you've completely broken the pipeline.
Exactly. Faster bottlenecks. And to prevent that, you have to treat culture as a design variable. Execution is just as much behavioral as it is technical. You have to design the implementation so that the human employees actually trust the tool.
I feel like this is constantly overlooked. People just assume that if a tool is better, employees will naturally want to use it. But that's not human nature at all.
Not even a little bit.
Yeah.
Trust is what enables adoption. If a dispatcher at a logistics company doesn't understand why the new AI routing software is telling them to send a truck down a weird highway, they're just going to ignore the software and use their gut instinct.
Right, because they trust their gut. They don't trust the black box.
Exactly. You have to build AI literacy across the staff because literacy brings confidence. And you have to provide absolute clarity on how the tool will be used because clarity reduces resistance and fear.
Yeah.
You are managing human psychology just as much as you are managing code.
So what does this all mean? How do you actually do this if you are a leader listening right now? Where does a company even begin to shift from this chaotic pilot mode into disciplined execution?
Parashar offers a highly actionable framework to make this transition. The very first move is to formally declare AI a leadership priority. It cannot be a side project. It needs highly visible CXO sponsorship.
And by CXO, we mean the C-suite, the CEO, the CFO, the people writing the big checks and setting the company-wide goals.
Exactly. It has to be discussed in boardrooms in clear business terms, and it must be owned at the very top of the organizational chart. If the CEO doesn't actively care about it and track its progress, the rest of the company won't care either. It will just be another flavor of the month IT initiative that fades away.
Okay, so once the CEO is actually on board and taking ownership, what's the next hurdle? Because I imagine you don't just flip a switch and turn the AI loose.
Far from it. The next phase is perhaps the most critical and honestly the most painful for a lot of organizations.
Okay, brace ourselves.
You have to redesign your processes before you scale the AI. You have to stabilize your decision logic, your data flows, and your accountability structures first. Parashar has a quote here that should be printed out and framed on every executive's desk.
What is it?
AI scales process quality, good or bad.
Oh, wow. Let's break that down because that sounds like a trap a lot of companies fall into.
It is the ultimate trap.
Yeah.
Let that concept really sink in. If you have a highly efficient, logical, streamlined process, applying AI will make it blazingly fast and incredibly scalable. But if your process is a convoluted, broken mess, applying AI to it will just generate chaos at an unprecedented speed. You have to fix the plumbing before you turn on the high-pressure water.
That is such an important translation for anyone dealing with corporate bureaucracy. Think about it like this. If your company's current expense approval process takes 5 confusing back-and-forth emails between 3 different managers just to get a simple yes on a travel receipt.
We've all been there.
Right. Plugging AI into that workflow won't magically fix the confusion. It will just send those 5 confusing emails in a fraction of a second. You haven't innovated at all. You have just automated your own dysfunction.
That is a perfect example.
Yeah.
You have automated dysfunction. This is why you must fix the human process first.
Got it.
Once the process is clean, then you can establish the governance we discussed earlier. You define your boundaries, you map out your exact risk tolerance, and you set up firm ownership models before the AI is fully deployed across the enterprise. Governance is what allows your team to execute with confidence, knowing the guardrails are actually there to protect them and the company.
And once the guardrails are up and the processes are clean, is that it? Are we done? Do we just let the AI run?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Execution is not a finish line you cross, you can pop champagne and go home. It is a living, breathing ecosystem. You have to build for continuous learning.
Right, because the models change, the business changes.
Exactly. It requires constant feedback loops, iterative improvements, and regular leadership reviews. The true competitive advantage of AI doesn't come from just turning it on. The advantage compounds over time through your organization's learning speed.
I love that. Learning speed.
The faster your organization can learn from the AI's outputs, catch errors, refine the processes, and adjust to new market conditions, the further ahead you will pull from the competition.
This entire framework really grounds the conversation. It brings all this high-flying sci-fi talk down to earth, and it really helps to understand the context of where Parashar is coming from.
Yeah, his background really informs this.
His organization, Rethink AI, focuses their entire consulting practice strictly on this execution phase. They aren't out there just building flashy chatbots for convention booths.
Not at all.
They're working on the gritty stuff, operating model design, enterprise strategy, and building that crucial leadership AI literacy we talked about. Their entire goal is to ensure that AI becomes an embedded capability within a business rather than an endless, expensive experiment.
Right. They're essentially the architects helping companies build a solid foundation so the house doesn't collapse the moment the power gets turned on.
That's exactly it.
They recognize that the era of simply being impressed by what AI can do is completely over. The honeymoon phase is ended. The market now demands tangible results.
So to connect this back to you, the listener, whether you are leading a massive global team, whether you're trying to implement a single new software tool at your small business, or you're just trying to navigate your own career and stay relevant in this modern corporate landscape, this framework is a wake-up call.
A huge one.
It proves that relying on the safety and the comfort of just testing out new tech in a sandbox isn't enough anymore. You can't just be the person who knows how to write a clever prompt for a chatbot. You have to be the person who knows how to tie that output to a tangible business result.
Parashar summarizes this beautifully at the very end of his article. He writes, "Experimentation is comfortable, execution is uncomfortable. But in an AI-driven world, comfort is not a strategy."
Comfort is not a strategy.
The companies and the leaders who win the next decade will not be the ones with the most pilot programs or the flashiest pilot dashboards. The winners will be those who operationalize intelligence with sheer, unwavering discipline.
Yeah.
The question is no longer, what can AI do? The critical question every leader must answer is, how are we executing AI as a core business capability?
Comfort is not a strategy. I love that. I'm going to be thinking at that line all week. This is exactly the kind of uncomfortable truth that actually drives real, sustainable growth, both for a business and for an individual career.
This raises an important question, though, and it's something I want to leave our listener to really chew on as they go about their day.
Okay, let's hear it.
If you look at the other articles Parashar has written, titles like AI Governance, The Silent Differentiator, and Ethics as Strategy, you see a very clear pattern in his work. He is constantly looking at the human systems that sit behind the technology.
Right.
So let's go back to that reality we discussed earlier. AI scales process quality, good or bad.
The automated dysfunction.
Exactly. If you look objectively at your own workflow right now, or your own team's daily operations, what existing fundamentally broken process are you secretly hoping some new piece of technology will magically fix for you?
Oh, that cuts deep.
And how might stepping back, doing the uncomfortable work, and redesigning that human process first completely change your entire approach to technology?
That is a phenomenal question to end on. If the foundation of your workflow is cracked, a shiny new algorithm isn't going to hold the house up. You have to fix the foundation first. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the source material today. We hope this conversation gives you the tools and the perspective to take your own ideas out of the comfortable realm of experimentation and put them into the uncomfortable but incredibly rewarding realm of execution. We will see you next time.